and 40 to Job directly, and then yeah. So basically, this whole study today will be about God talking. So now that we have that information, let's begin specifically with chapter 39, which chapter 39 is where God he speaks with even more vivid imagery and goes more in depth. And after the majestic questions that he asked in 38, God moves from the grand scale of the cosmos to the intricate lives of creatures in the wild. So he's going to get into the intricate details now. God shows that God shows those wild animals to Job, the birds, the earth's creatures, all of that wisdom hidden within their behavior, and then all of the designed and ordered the order of creation. And this chapter challenges us to see that God's wisdom is evident everywhere, and even in the things we may overlook. He says, his ways are seen in the wild, untamed parts of creation, and these teach us something something about God's character, right? And his detail and sovereignty and yeah. So with that said, let's begin to read chapter 39. Do you know when the mountain goats gave birth? Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn? Do you count the mouths they fill till they bear? Do you know? Oh yeah. Do you know the time they gave birth? They crouch down and bring forth their young. Their labor pains are ended. Their young thrive and grow strong in the wilds. They leave and do not return. Who let the wild donkey go free? Who untied his ropes? I gave him the wasteland as his home, the salt flats as his habitat. He laughs at the commotion in the town. He does not hear a driver's shout. He ranges the hills for his pasture and searches for any green thing. While will the wild ox consent to serve you? Will he stay by your manger at night? Can you hold him to the furrow with a hardness? Will he till the valleys behind you? Will you rely on him for his great will you rely on him for his great strength? Will you leave your heavy work to him? Can you trust him to bring in your grain and gather it to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully, but they cannot compare with the pinions and feathers of the stork. She lays her eggs on the ground and lets them warm in the sand, unmindful that a foot may crush them, that some wild animal may trample them. She treats her young harshly as if they were not hers. She cares not that her labor was in vain, for God did not endow her with wisdom or give her a share of good sense. Yet when she spreads her feathers to run, she laughs at horse and rider. Do you give the horse his strength, or clothe his neck with a flowing mane? Do you make him leap like a locust, striking terror with his proud snorting? He paws fiercely, rejoicing in his strength, and charges into the fray. He laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. He does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against his side, along with the flashing spear and lance. In frenzied excitement, he eats up the ground. He cannot stand still when the trumpet sounds. At the blast of the trumpet, he snorts, aha, aha. He catches the scent of battle from afar, the shout of commander and the battle cry. And does the hawk take flight by your wisdom and spread his wings toward the south? Does the eagle soar at your command and build his nest on high? He dwells on a cliff and stays there at night. A rocky crag is his stronghold. From there he seeks out his food. His eyes detect it from afar. His young ones feast on blood, and where the slain are, there he is. Wow. So that's the chapter. There's a lot of interesting imagery here going on with the animals, and so let's break it down step by step. In verses 1 through 4, we see God sharing the wisdom of the wild. And so specifically in verse 1, he says, "Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you watch when the bears, or when the doe bears her fawn?" So God begins by asking about the birth cycles of animals, things Job has no control over whatsoever, and probably can't even observe those things. So there's a powerful image of the mother goat and doe giving birth in the wild without human interference. And so God is the one who knows and controls life, even in the most hidden, unseen moments. So every act of life, down to the smallest birth, happens according to God's plan. Life is sacred and God sustains it. So even in your most private moments, God also sees you and knows you. His wisdom is beyond what we can observe. So in verses 5 through 8, he talks about the wild donkeys. So he says in verse 5, he says, who let the wild donkey go free? So God describes the donkey, the wild donkey, an untamed creature that roams freely, unchained, untouched by human hands. So there's a powerful image here that the wild donkeys running freely, untouched by human expectations. Unlike the horse, where the horse is a lot more domesticated in this age, the donkey is a lot more wild and free. So God delights in creatures that are free in their wildness. His creation doesn't need to be tamed or controlled by human hands to fulfill their purposes. And so are there areas in our lives where we are trying to control what God wants to let run wild? Sometimes freedom is the key to God's design. So verses 9 through 12 talks about the ox and its strength. So in verse 9, he says, "Will the wild ox consent to serve you? Will it stay by your manger at night?" So God asks about the wild ox, a powerful, strong animal that cannot be easily tamed or subdued. So there's a powerful image that the wild ox, full of strength and energy, resists human taming. So God is reminding Job that even like the strongest creatures belong to him, and their power is a testament to God's greatness. So strength, power, and might are all gifts from God. They're all gifts, and we don't own them ourselves, but we're called to recognize their source. So sometimes God gives you strength not to control others or circumstances, but to honor him with it. So in verses 13 through 18, God talks about the ostrich. In verse 13 he says, "The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully, but they cannot compare with the wings and feathers of the stork." So God describes the ostrich, a creature that seems to lack some qualities compared to other birds, but it is uniquely adapted to its environment. There's powerful imagery. The ostrich flapping its wings, yet running across the plains at an incredible speed. Now that's interesting. The ostrich may not be a great flyer, but it's perfectly equipped for the life it has. So it's really fast on land, as it doesn't need to fly, but it's pretty fast when it's running across the ground. And yeah, so God equips each creature and each person with exactly what they need to fulfill their purpose, no matter how odd or incomplete it may seem to us. If you feel less than because because of your abilities or weaknesses, remember, God designed you perfectly for your purpose. He has a purpose for us, specific to each one of us. And verses 19 through 25, God talks about the horse. In verse 19 he says, "Do you give the horse its might? Do you clothe its neck with the flowing mane?" So God speaks of the horse, a majestic and powerful animal, full of strength and courage. And the horse, bellowing and with excitement, charging forward with wild energy. That's a powerful image there. God is the giver of strength to the horse, and he's the source of all that courage, all the courage and the vitality of the horse. And the horse may be wild in this case, but its energy is not wasted, and it's directed like for a purpose, and God, and that purpose is for God, and what he sees fit, what he deems fit for it. So you might feel restless or full of passion, but God can direct that energy for his purposes, as long as you surrender it to him. So verses 26 through 30 is about the hawk and the eagle. In verse 26 he says, "Does the hawk take flight by your wisdom and spread its wings towards the south?" So God finishes his discourse on animals by describing the hawk and the eagle, birds that are masters of flight. So there's the powerful image here is that the eagle, soaring high above effortlessly, is guided by God's hand. So the hawk and eagle represent the wisdom and power of God in creation as he directs their flight. And these birds fly with purpose and grace. And just as God guides us with purpose and grace, so just as the eagle soars on the winds of the Spirit, God calls us to rise above our circumstances with his strength, with God's strength. So knowing these things, let's look at the application of this chapter. Number one, God's wisdom is seen in the wild. So from the birth of a mountain goat to the soaring of an eagle, God's wisdom is visible everywhere. All creation is a testament to his infinite knowledge and careful design. So look to creation for a glimpse of God's wisdom. When you're unsure, step outside. Let the natural world remind you of the Creator's care, of God's care. And number two, freedom in God's design. The donkeys, the wild donkeys, the ostrich, and the ox all have unique roles in creation, not controlled by human hands, but shaped by God's purpose. And so, embrace this freedom God gives you to live according to his design, not the world's expectations. And number 3, strength for purpose. The horse, the wild donkeys, the wild ox, even the eagle carry. Oh, sorry, not the donkeys have strength too, but especially the ox and the eagle, they carry immense strength for their size and whatnot. But all of it is for God's purpose, and recognizing that your strength is also a gift from God. Well, use that gift for God's glory and trust that He will direct your passion and energy. So, yeah, let's encourage us with this chapter by looking at how this chapter can challenge us to look beyond ourselves and see God's wisdom woven into the fabric of creation. From the tiniest creature to the grandest beast, each animal has been given a role and purpose, just as we have. And God's questions remind Job and us that we are not the center of the universe, but part of something much bigger. When we see His wisdom and in the wild, we can trust that He sees us as well. He sees us too. So whether you're running free like the wild donkeys or something high like the eagle, know this: you are under the watchful eyes of God, the Creator, who designed you with purpose. In His wild wisdom, He's got this, and He's got you. He's got these creatures, and He's also got you. So